It's an amazing thing an amazing miracle to understand. He wasn't religious. He wasn't religious. None of them are religious, but are they heroes? So of course they're heroes, but this is what Rav Kook called the Mashiach Ben Yosef syndrome. That's what he meant. There's a syndrome of worrying about, understand me with this, worrying about the physical welfare of the Jewish people. And, well, what about their spiritual welfare? What about, well, I'll leave that to the rabbis, but I was going to say Shema Yisrael and Baal. You know, it was a syndrome of what did Yosef do in Mitzrayim? Yosef did in Mitzrayim, he gave them parnasa. I'm going to take care. He was from, but I'm going to give you food. I'm going to give you clothing. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you real estate. That's what I'm going to do. So the Mashiach Ben Yosef is the prelude to the Mashiach Ben Dovid. That's what happens. But it's not going to last forever. So what we have to understand is that the Mashiach Ben Yosef, here's a new concept, is followed, like the second half of Mashiach Ben Yosef is Binyamin. That's the second half. Binyamin was the same thing as Yosef. He saved the Jews in Persia, Purim story. Mordechai saved the Jews in Persia from extinction by Amalek. Same thing. And because of that, Esther became the queen. This was not such a kosher story. Esther became the queen of Persia, married Achashverosh, had a son, Koreh, Cyrus, who she told her son, the Gemara says, let when she was an old lady, she told her, you make sure the Jews get back to Israel, let them build a base of Mikdash, let them do what they want, and he had no choice. He was an anti-Semite, but he had no choice but to listen to his mother. Tosha says his grandmother was, which depends which Cyrus we're talking about over here. This was a being Mesader, the Gashmias of Klal Yisrael. So important to understand. That was what the Bnei Rachel, that was their job to do. You can look at it Kabbalistically, that before you, like we keep on talking about Malchus, we keep on talking about that the Mashiach of Yehuda is as Tzemach David Avducha Meir, it grows like a plant from the ground. Well, who's putting it in the ground? It means to say that the Shekhinah of Hashem has to come all the way down. And this is what was going on with Yosef, this is what was going on with Binyamin, and there's a conflict between Yosef and Binyamin. Between Binyamin, well, Binyamin is the second half, between Binyamin and Yehuda. That transition is not a smooth one. So what happens is, Shaul is at the end of Mashiach Ben Yosef. It's now time, Ois gespielt, it's now time for the Malchus of Binyamin, which is the Bnei Rachel, to end. What happened to Shaul that he had to end his Malchus?
He didn't listen.
He didn't listen and he did what?
He left the animals.
He left the Amalek. No, Amalek. He was supposed to kill Amalek.
Right.
Right, okay. No, I'm sorry. He was supposed to kill Amalek. He said, no, I can't kill Amalek. Shmuel Anavi tells him to kill Amalek, and he doesn't kill Amalek. What's with that? So, okay, you're about...
But not the animals in the water.
The same. He didn't do the whole job. He didn't do the job. Okay, now comes the time of transition. Transition from the unsmooth transition from Bnei Rachel to Bnei Leah, from Binyamin to Yehuda, from Shaul to David. Interesting. Shaul's son, Yonasan, said, Dad, time to go on. I'm going over to David's side. Unbelievable. So Yonasan becomes the closest friend to David HaMelech, the enemy. Who does David marry? Michal Bas Shaul, amongst many others. Michal Bas Shaul marries Shaul's son. There was this transition taking place, and Shaul couldn't deal with it because his ego got involved with it, and his psychology got involved with it. But the fact of the matter is, what was going on in that period was a transition that must take place. It goes like this. This is the way it goes. Yosef Binyamin, Yehuda. That's the way it goes. Deeper and deeper into the earth. The Kvod Hashem goes deeper and deeper into the earth. So here, look at this. When Yaakov gave the brachas to his sons, so to Binyamin he said, Binyamin Za'ev Yitarev. You have to be like a wolf. To Binyamin he says, you're going to fight like a wolf. Like he was talking about Shaul, Rashi says. You're going to have to fight. To Binyamin, Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of his life talks to the Shvatim, and he says here, well, gives him a beautiful bracha, Binyamin. Where Binyamin Amar, right? To Binyamin he said, Moshe Rabbeinu. He called him Yedid Hashem. Yedid Hashem. You are such a beautiful lashon. You are the Yedid Hashem. Beloved, friend. A Yedid is a friend. Yedid Hashem. Yishkol levetach alav. I, Hashem. Yishkol levetach. Yishkol means Shechina. I will dwell in your territory, because we know how the map works, right? You have big Shevet Yehuda. Binyamin is Ritzua Katana. Yotzer in Yerushalayim, right? You know, we know exactly where Shevet Binyamin is today, by the way. If you go to Ramat Eshkol, on Rehov Yamsuf starts Shevet Binyamin, right there. We know exactly, because it's measured. The measurements are given in the Tanakh, and explained in the Gemara, Divrei Yavim again. It starts at Rehov Yamsuf of Ramat Eshkol. It goes over Kvish Achad. This is Binyamin. It goes to the other side of Har HaZesim. Zahu, 10 kilometers. That's what we're talking about. 10 kilometers wide, 20 kilometers long. That's the whole, in the middle. Ritzua Katana, the Gemara calls it. It's a Ritzua Katana, Yosef Yehuda of Yosef. What's the significance of it? That's where the Beis HaMikdash is going to be built. So it's this, why? Why? Because it says in the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu told him, Yishkol levetach alav. You should know the Beis HaMikdash will always be built on your chelik, Binyamin. Interesting. Chofef alav kol hayom. The Shechina will hover over it all of the day. We'll bank safe of Yishachef. We'll explain. But what's important here is, first of all, let's explain what we could explain, which is not too much in the big scheme of things, but a little bit. The Piara above it. What does it mean, Yedid Hashem? So let me tell you one thing about Binyamin here for a minute. Binyamin, the Torah says, if you go back, you look at it in Paraglam and Hay, Lamed Hay Tes Zayin. Yeah. Vayisu mi Beisel. They traveled from Beisel. Parshas Vayishlach means Yaakov and Rachel traveled from Beisel. Vayot Kibras Aretz Lo Vayafra. So they were coming into the land of Eretz Yisrael towards the Derech Efrat. Tomer Lam Yaledas Al Tiri Gam Zeloch Ben. You're going to have a son. She was pregnant. Vayihi b'tzeis nafsha ki mesa, and as Rachel was giving birth to her son, she died. She died in childbirth, Rachel. Vatikra Shmo, and as she was dying, her final words were, this son should be called, what? Ben Oni. That's what she named him, Ben Oni, the son of my mourning. She died while she was giving birth to him, but this was like her last words. Who could change his name after such a story? Right? Rachel, who Yaakov loved so much, she's giving birth, and she's going to die. She realizes she's dying, and as the child comes out, Belidata, she says, Vatikra Shemoi Ben Oni. Yaakov takes the baby. Rachel is dead before him. He takes the baby, and he says, no. Your name's not Ben Oni, your name is Binyamin. But she's saying Ben Oni, He's the son of my mourning. I mean, she's not mourning, but he brought mourning into this world. I died because of you. Ben Oni. And Yaakov is taking the same child, and he's saying, I'll go with the Ben, I'm with you on the Ben part, but not Ben Oni. Let's make it a little bit different. Let's make it Binyamin. That's a better name. What's the difference between Ben Oni and Benyamin? Two different sides of the world. Ben Oni, let's to make it simple, let's put it in Zohar language. Ben Oni, Avelus, small midas hadin. Mourning, death, din, a moment of din. Ben Oni, this came about, the son came about in a moment of din. Din in Kabbalah, so you know, is always the left side. He said, no, this is not coming from the left side. Ben Yamin. It's coming from the right side. Mazel tov, chesed. It's a beautiful thing. It was quite a domestic dispute, considering that his wife just died. To argue, the last argument of Yaakov and Rachel. Ben Oni, Ben Yamin. Yaakov Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe Rabbeinu. We have here the Yad Yamin, Yaakov's version. We have here the Yad small, Midas Hadin is always the small. Rachel's version. What do you have when you have two Yadayim, says Moshe Rabbeinu? You did. Yad. You did Hashem. Both true. He's a Ben Oni. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu said. He's a Ben Oni. Yad Echad. He's a Ben Yamin. L'kaitz Yamin Meshichenu. Right? Isn't that what we say? Chanukah after we like to get us. L'kaitz Yamin Meshichenu. Yamin Kadsho Haviani. Right? Yamin is talking about the Mashiach. Also true. So he's Yidid. It's an interesting thing. What happens when you have a Yad and a Yad? You have Yidid. The Yidid is 28. Koach. You could use 28. Koach. If you use both hands, it's Koach. It means that what we're looking for in the world, just a little bit of Kabbalah just to go home with, that what we're looking for in the world is to be able to bring the Chesed and the Din into one place. Echad. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Midas Harachamim. Elokeinu Midas Hadin, Hashem Echad. Hashem Echad. So we're looking for the Echad. Yedid. Yedid means Echad. Hashem means Echad. But he says Yedid Hashem, it's the same thing as saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Yedid Hashem. And because you're Yedid Hashem, because you're bringing it all together, so the Shekhinah can be Chofei V'Alav Kol Hayom. Chofei V'Alav Kol Hayom. So there's so much to say about Binyamin. It's so important. But what Binyamin is doing for the world after Yosef, this is the main thing to say about Binyamin. What he's doing after the world, what he's doing for the world, what really Shaul's mission was, and what Mordechai's vision was, and what Mashiach Ben Yosef is ultimately going to come to, is to be able to take the Din and the Chesed and to make it into one, and to be a Did Hashem. So it means to say that you could start off maybe with a secular, not that Yosef was secular, but the concept of I'm worrying about the welfare of the Jewish people, to get to a Mordechai, where Mordechai had a kind of like a mizug, that on the one hand this is what he was Ish Binyamin, Ish Mini, but on the other hand he was Ish Yehudi Hayavashushan Habir. So he was worrying about the Rufnis also. So Mordechai was the segue between Yosef. Mordechai was the segue between Yosef and the return to Eretz Yisrael, to Ezra, and the Malchus Beis David. It was a return to the Malchus Beis David, because you know all the Nesiim of Klal Yisrael at the time of the Second Temple were all had to be Hillel, Rabbi Gamliel, Shimon ben Gamliel. At the end, they were all from Yehuda. They were all from David HaMelech from Yehuda, all Malchus Beis David. It was so much so that the Romans realized this, just a little piece of history, the Romans realized, oh, we never realized, we thought there was just a bunch of rabbis, we never realized that there was what they called at that time a Shlit'a de Gamliosa. Even has a Roman word for it, I don't know how to say it. Shlit'a de Gamliosa is there's a Gamliel chain here, a Hillel chain, which has to do with David HaMelech. So when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was negotiating with Vespasian at the end of the temple, he said to Vespasian, "Ten li Yavne v'chachameh," everybody knows that, give me Yavne, "B'tachser Shlit'a de Gamliosa," and give us back Malchus Beis David. I want, that's the Gamliel family. Because the Romans said no more of these people can be kings. They're going to rebel against us. We don't want any Davidic dynasties over here. So they forbade it. And then Yochanan ben Zakkai was not from there. He said, I don't want to be the Nasi. I don't belong to the Nasi here. I'm only the Nasi because Rabbi Gamliel is against the law for him to be the Nasi. Now you're destroying Yerushalayim, destroying the Beis Hamikdash, destroying everything. Let him be the Nasi. He was smart, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So because he hopped the moment, Vespasian said, okay. They went to Yavne. Who's the head of Yavne? Rabbi Gamliel. So he brought that back. So what we have here is that there's a transition that has to take place. There's a talich. The question that I started off with was, why did Yaakov give the bracha to Yosef? Why didn't he already give the bracha to Yehuda? Because we weren't up to Yehuda. That's why. We weren't up to Yehuda. Yaakov gave the bracha to Yosef because it was the next step. Yosef treated with Binyamin with royalty because he's the next step after him. This is a ta'alich of the Geula. So it goes from Avraham to Yitzchak to Yaakov to Yosef to Binyamin to Yehuda. Yehuda, you'll have your time. But before you get to Yehuda, you have to be to Persia. And before you get to Yehuda, you have to be to Mitzrayim. And you have to do the Memtes Shari Tumah thing. We have to be Avadim. Why? Because we have to become part of this earth. That's the purpose of the world. That's the tikkun, after all. And then we come to Mashiach Ben Dovid and Yavai Aleinu B'mheira. Because next week there's no shiur because of the dinner.